NBC News in depth tonight, September 11th, 5 years later. Our special series in conjunction with the Washington Post. Tonight, bioterrorism. Since 9/11 and the anthrax attacks, the government has been working to ensure the country is safe from future attacks. Washington Post reporter and NBC News national security analyst Dana Priest has an inside look at one controversial method for exploring biological risks in depth.
In his small laboratory on Long Island, New York, biologist Eckhard Wimmer did something no one has done before. He created a version of the deadly polio virus, combining chemicals with pieces of genetic code he purchased over the internet.
We wanted to make a very strong point at the time about the dangers inherent to new biotechnologies.
His experiment, criticized by many scientists, was funded by the Department of Defense, in part as an exercise to see how easy it is to make dangerous viruses from scratch, something the government says a terrorist might try. Since 9/11 and the anthrax scare that quickly followed, the government has poured billions of dollars into bioterrorism defense. But Wimmer's experiment was a wake-up call, says Washington Post reporter Joby Warwick.
The government is years behind, possibly decades behind the science, because we're still looking at classical biothreat agents that were made in the 1940s and 50s. Now we've got a whole new generation of threats, and we're not really sure how to handle them.
Which is why, at a lab just outside the nation's capital, government scientists plan to get inside the head of a bioterrorist, exploring and sometimes creating small amounts of bioweapons in order to find ways to defeat them. The work is controversial because the government is doing most of it in secret. Homeland Security officials plan to operate the lab under tighter security than most nuclear facilities, which has experts worried about how other governments will respond.
It could willy-nilly trigger an offensive arms race that would definitely not be in the U.S. interest.
The U.S. government defends the secrecy, telling the Washington Post it's in the public's best interest not to expose the nation's vulnerabilities, and insists adequate security is in place. But what can be done to prevent a world crisis? Experts say open communication among scientists.
There should be some overarching international effort to get countries that are working in this field to cooperate, to share information, to be transparent.
Back in New York, Wimmer says he will continue his experiments.
I think that we are not funded enough in order to maintain the small edge we have over possibly the bioterrorists.
5 years after 9/11, the science of bioterrorism is racing ahead, and the government is struggling to catch up. Dana Priest for NBC News, Washington.
You can read more on this tomorrow and Monday in the Washington Post and tonight online at WashingtonPost.com.